The outboard motor died. I heard voices, loud voices, men's voices, laughter. I was running now. The orangutans clinging around my neck. The forest hooted and howled in alarm all around me. As I reached the cave, I heard the first shots ring out. Every bird, every bat in the forest lifted off so that the screeching sky was black with them. We gathered the orangutans together at the back of the cave and huddled there in the darkness with them as the shooting went on and on. Of all of them, Tomodachi was the most agitated. But they all needed constant comfort and reassurance from Kensuke. All through this dreadful nightmare, Kensuke sang to them softly. The hunters were nearer, ever nearer, shooting and shouting. I closed my eyes. I prayed. The orangutans whimpered loud as if they were singing along with Kensuke. All this while, Stella lay at my feet, a permanent growl in her throat. I held on to the ruff of her neck, just in case. The young orangutans burrowed their heads into me whenever they could, under my arms, under my knees, and clung on. The shots cracked so close now, splitting the air and echoing around the cave. There were distant yells of triumph. I knew only too well what this must mean. After that, the hunt moved away. We could hear no more voices, just the occasional shot, and then nothing. The forest had fallen silent. We stayed where we were for hours. I wanted to venture out to see if they had gone, but Kensuke would not let me. He sang all the time, and the orangutan stayed huddled around us until we heard the sound of the outboard motor starting up. Even then, Kensuke still made me wait a while longer. When at last we did emerge, the junk was already well out to sea. We searched the island for Kikambu, sang for him, called for him, but there was no sign of him. Kensuke was in deep despair. He was inconsolable. He went off on his own, and I let him go. I came across him shortly after, kneeling over the bodies of 2 dead gibbons, both mothers. He was not crying, but he had been. His eyes were filled with hurt and bewilderment. We dug away a hole in the soft earth on the edge of the forest and buried them. There were no words in me left to speak, and Kensuke had no songs left to sing. We were making our sorrowful way back home along the beach when it happened. Kikambu ambushed us. He came charging out of the trees, scattering sand at us, and then climbed up Kensuke's leg and wrapped himself around his neck. It was such a good moment, a great moment. That night, Kensuke and I sang 10 green bottles over and over again, very loudly, over our fish soup. It was, I suppose, a sort of wake for the 2 dead gibbons, as well as an ode to joy for Kikambu. The forest outside seemed to echo our singing, but in the weeks that followed I could see that Kensuke was brooding on the terrible events of that day. He set about making a cage of stout bamboo at the back of the cave to house the orangutans more securely in case the killer men ever returned. He kept going over and over it, how he should have done this before, how he would never forgive himself if Kikambu had been taken, how he wished the gibbons would come when he sang so he could save them too. We cut down branches and brush from the forest and stacked them outside the cave mouth so they could be pulled across to disguise the entrance of the cave house. He became very nervous, very anxious, sending me often to the hilltop with the binoculars to see if the junk had returned. But as time went by, as the immediate threat receded, he became more his own self again. Even so, I felt he was always wary, always slightly on edge. Because he was keeping so many of my paintings now, we found we were running out of good painting shells, so early one morning we set off on an expedition to find some more. We scoured the beach, heads down, side by side, just a few feet apart. There was always an element of competition with our shell collecting. Who would find the first, the biggest, the most perfect? We had not been long, neither of us had found yet a single shell, when I became aware that he had stopped walking. "Mika-san," he breathed, and he was pointing out to the sea with his stick. There was something out there, something white, but too defined, too shaped to be a cloud. We had left the binoculars behind. With Stella yapping all the way, I raced back along the beach and up the track to the cave house, grabbed the binoculars and made for the top of the hill. A sail. 2 sails. 2 white sails. I bounded down the hillside, back into the cave, and pulled out a lighted stick from the fire. By the time I reached the beacon, Kensuke was already there. He took the binoculars from me and looked for himself. "Can I light it?" I asked. "Can I?" "All right, Mika-san," he said. "All right." I thrust the lighted stick deep into the beacon, in amongst the dry leaves and twigs at its core. It lit almost immediately, and very soon flames were roaring up into the wood, licking out as the wind took them. We backed away at the sudden heat of it. I was disappointed there were so many flames. I wanted smoke, not flames. I wanted towering clouds of smoke. "Do not worry, Mika-san," Kensuke said. "They will see this for sure, you see." We took turns with the binoculars. Still the yacht had not turned. They had not seen it. The smoke was beginning to billow up into the sky. Desperately I threw more and more wood onto the fire until it was a roaring inferno of flame and dense smoke. I had thrown on almost the very last of the wood we had collected when Kensuke said suddenly, "Mika-san, it is coming. I think the boat is coming." He handed me the binoculars. The yacht was turning. It was definitely turning, but I couldn't make out whether it was towards us or away from us. "I don't know," I said. "I'm not sure." He took the binoculars off me. "I tell you, Mika-san, it come this way. They see us. I am very sure. It come to our island." Moments later, as the wind fills the sails, I knew he was right. We hugged each other there on the hilltop beside the blazing beacon. I leapt up and down like a wild thing, and Stella went mad with me. Every time I looked through the binoculars now, the yacht was coming closer. "She's a big yacht," I said. "I can't see her flag." "Dark blue hull like the Peggy Sue." And only then, as I said it out loud, did I begin to hope that it could possibly be her. Gradually, hope turned to belief, and belief to certainty. I saw a blue cap, my mother's cap. It was them. It was them. "Kensuke!" I cried, still looking through the binoculars. "Kensuke, it's the Peggy Sue. It is. They've come back for me. They've come back." But Kensuke did not reply. When I looked round, I discovered he was not there. I found him sitting at the mouth of the cave house with my football in his lap. He looked up at me, and I knew already from the look in his eyes what he was going to tell me. He stood up, put his hands on my shoulders, and looked me deep in the eyes. "You'll listen to me very good now, Mika-san," he said. "I am too old for that new world you tell me about. It is very exciting world, but it is not my world. My world was Japan long time ago, and now my world is here. I think about it for a long time. If Kimi is alive, if Mikia is alive, then they think I am dead long time ago. I would be like ghost coming home. I am not same person. They're not same either. And besides, I have family here, orangutan family. Maybe killer men come again. Who look after them then? No, I stay on my island. This is my place. This Kensuke's kingdom. Emperor must stay in his kingdom. Look after his people. Emperor does not run away. Not honourable thing to do." I could see there was no point in pleading or arguing or protesting. He put his forehead against mine and let me cry. "You go now," he went on. "But before you go, you'll promise 3 things. First, you'll paint every day of your life So one day you'll be great artist like Hokusai. Second, you'll think of me sometime, often maybe, when you are home in England. When you look up at full moon, you'll think of me, and I do same for you. That way, we never forget each other. Last thing you promise, very important to me. Very important, you say nothing of this, nothing of me. You come here alone, you alone in this place, you understand? I not here. After 10 years, you say what you like. All that left of me then is bones. It not matter any more then. I want no one come looking for me. I stay here, I live life in peace. No people. People come, no peace. You understand? You keep secret for me, Mika. You promise? I promise, I said. He smiled and gave me my football. You'll take football. You're very good at football, but you're much better painter now. You go now. And with his arm around my shoulder, he took me outside. You'll go, he said. I walked away only a little way and turned round. He was still standing at the mouth of the cave. You go now, please. And he bowed to me. I bowed back. Sayonara, Mika-san, he said. It has been an honor to know you. Great honor of my life. I hadn't the voice to reply. Blinded with tears, I ran off down the track. Stella didn't come at once, but by the time I reached the edge of the forest, she had caught up with me. She raced out into the beach, barking at the Peggy Sue, but I stayed where I was hidden in the shadow of the trees and cried out all my tears. I watched the Peggy Sue come sailing in. It was indeed my mother and my father on board. They had seen Stella by now and were calling out to her. She was barking her silly head off. I saw the anchor go down. Goodbye, Kensuke, I whispered. I took a deep breath and ran out into the sun, waving and yelling. I splashed out into the shadows to meet them. My mother just cried and hugged me till I'd break. She kept saying over and over again, "Didn't I tell you we'd find him? Didn't I tell you?" The first words my father said were, "Hello, monkey face." For almost a year, my mother and father had searched for me. No one would help them, for no one would believe I could still be alive. Not a chance in a million, they said. My father too, he later admitted, had given me up for dead, but never my mother. So far as she was concerned, I was alive. I had to be alive. She simply knew it in her heart. So they sailed from island to island, searching on until they found me. Not a miracle, just faith. Postscript. 4 years after this book was published, I received this letter. Dear Michael, I write to tell you, in my bad English, my name is Mikia Ogawa. I am the son of Dr. Kensuke Ogawa. Until I read your book, I thought my father had died in the war. My mother died only 3 years ago, still believing this. As you say in your book, we lived in Nagasaki, but we were very lucky. Before the bomb fell, we went into the countryside to see my grandmother for a few days, so we lived. I have no memories of my father, only some photographs and your book. It would be a pleasure to talk to you, someone who knew my father as you did. Maybe one day we could meet. I hope so. With best wishes, Mikia Ogawa. A month after receiving this letter, I went to Japan and I met Mikia. He laughs, just like his father did.